Hey everybody, this is vlog 37. Nice, 37 or is it 38? 37. 37. So, it's been about, what does it say? See, January 24th. That was over a week ago. So, let's see here. Being Saturday night, the 2nd of February 2013, at around 10 o'clock, or how it's easier for me to read time when it's in world time. I would think some people call military time, but it's a 24-hour clock, not a 12-hour clock. And that was really helpful when I was having a whole lot of trouble with insomnia, because I was able to actually keep track of what part of the day or night I was awake or if I was asleep. So it was much easier to understand world time. So it's 2200 hours right now, which translated means it's 10 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. Not a whole lot has been going on. Things have been pretty simple. I've had a couple of disagreements with, well, I don't know. They're not really disagreements. I just make things out to be worse than they are sometimes. And occasionally I can sound extremely condescending and and sound like a complete asshole. And that's basically what happened in these particular conflicts. And I just turned on my asshole voice and just kind of let that get a little out of hand. But everything's alright now, at least I think it is. Tomorrow, Sports Ball Sport has their big game, Superb Owl, or Super Bowl, whatever you want to call it. I care less about who wins the damn game. I mean, I used to care. I used to watch football plenty, but I started finding myself, because believe it or not, when I was a younger kid, I was a big fan of NASCAR. And we live in the South. We live in North Carolina, so NASCAR was, it was born here. It was born from the Moonshine Runners. So, it was a cultural thing, really. And it was something me and my dad jumped on. Because there's a track not far from where I live that they used to race on. The main event doesn't race on the track anymore, but it was about, it had to have been at least 10 years where they just held small, lower end series at the track. That, or they just had track days. And a track day is basically when the track opens up. You usually pay minimal fee, and you can take your car out on the track. Um, and that's actually how a lot of speedways, um, a lot of racetracks actually keep their money flowing, because they might have a big series running, but it may only visit their track once a year. So there's plenty of time. Like, um, just up a bit north from here is VIR, or Virginia International Raceway, and uh, every weekend there's racing going on. Even during the week, there's racing going on. There's track days and all sorts of stuff. So, I mean, and that place is really cool. I've never been there. My dad's been there. He went and saw a superbike race there with one of his friends, and I'd like to go to VIR, but I'd like to go to VIR and take my car, you know, and run it around the track. Because I don't know if you would consider it a hot hatch. It's only got 3 doors, the two doors in the front, and of course then the hatch back. I don't know if you can consider it a hot hatch. It might be a little bit too big, just barely. But it's a Scion TC. It's the original model TC that Toyota released when they first started out their Scion make. And it happened to be that was when my first car, which I love dearly even to this day, it was called the People's Mercedes, because, you know, I was this, you know, rebellious punk rock kid in the late 90s. So when I got my car, you know, it was, you know, most punk rock kids, they'd be driving like a, you know, just a really beat up like Honda Accord or something. And I had a 260E Mercedes-Benz straight six, and it was painted asphalt gray with red trimming and red leather on the inside, or maroon leather. But it wasn't as dark as maroon. It was a little pinkier. But that car was fantastic. I love that car. I donated it, in a manner of speaking, to science. I gave it to, when I lived in Hickory, North Carolina, when the car's transmission went out, and fixing the transmission cost more than we actually purchased the car for. Ended up, that just, you know, might as well get a new car, which I was very fortunate to be able to do. And so I didn't want the car just to go to a crusher, because I know that community colleges and other vocational schools, their auto programs, their auto mechanic programs, they don't get a lot of foreign-made cars, or if they do, they're all like Toyotas, you know. You know, they're all old Honda Accords with, you know, 500,000 miles on them. It's ridiculous. The fact that the car is even still running is amazing. But no, my relatively low, I mean, I had 179,000 miles on the People's Mercedes, and That's when the transmission went out. And actually, it was kind of funny. It was just the forward gears that went out. Reverse still worked, which was very helpful because I was able to actually back down a side road that I had just passed and park my car in a empty parking lot, because this was at the end of a semester, so everybody had already left. So I was able to get my car to a safe location and off the road, because I was at a stop sign and I was turning right, and as I turned right, I just heard a noise. It was just this really loud clunk noise, and I pressed the gas, and the tachometer didn't move, or the tachometer moved, but the car just was idle. I tried putting it first gear, third gear, second gear, whatever. None of the gears were working except for reverse. But anyway, like I said, I donated it to the local community college, to their auto program, because I live right across, I live very close to, literally right across almost from the local community college here, and they have an auto program. And one thing I remember is I remember guys who went there, and that's how they became mechanics. But one thing that always struck me was that they said that they never really had much work on European cars. It was either Japanese cars or they were American built cars. And here I had a German engineered Mercedes. So I donated it to the auto program in Catawba County at their community college. So it was in good hands. I'm sure it taught, I don't know how many people, but I'm sure it taught at least one or two people how to work on a European style car, which to me that's a great trade-off. I get a little tax write-off because I donated the car to charity basically, and the car continues to live, and that's all I wanted it to do, because the car had easily 300,000 miles left in that engine. But back to the mental side of everything. I have been having a decent amount of static and noise and voices in my head. I actually I was reading, I can't remember the name of the story, but it's Sherlock Holmes. So Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, one of his stories about Sherlock, and I was kind of tired when I was reading it. I mean, I was still enjoying it, but I felt a little drowsy, and I didn't fall asleep. I know I didn't fall asleep because I was holding my Kindle Fire in my hand, and if I would have fallen asleep, I would have dropped it, because it's not heavy, but even if it was like a book, I would have dropped it as well. You know what I mean. But anyway, getting to the point, I had this crazy sort of daydream / hallucination it basically, I guess the better definition was, or is, um, it starts with a V. Um, I'm such a bad psychology major. Not visceral. Son of a bitch. I hate when I can't remember words or things. But anyway, so I had this vision, and I became Watson, and I was hearing Sherlock bounce theories off of me for, this was probably a good 5 minutes before I actually kind of broke out of the trance and realized I wasn't reading anymore and that I was just staring through everything. So that was an interesting experience. And then I went out to a couple places and I experienced some more auditory hallucinations and one or two visual hallucinations. Like I've always said, though, but my visual hallucinations usually excuse me again, they're more like apparitions. They're like shadows that I see. So, but I met with my psychiatrist actually last week, one day before I made the previous vlog to this one, and he had me stop thioxetine, which has been helpful because I've been able to at least somewhat get myself up in the morning without too much trouble, and I don't have the amnesia that I was having, so that's been helpful. So being less drowsy is good, but I still feel it at times tugging at me. It's like I'm attached to my bed via like a rubber band. So that's not fun, but whatever. Let's see, what else has been going on? Well, let's see. The Canes have been playing. They're just under 500. They're 3, 4, and yeah, just 3 and 4. They dropped the decision tonight against Philadelphia Flyers. So that was the first road loss, and we've got another 5 or 6 games that are road games before we have another home game. So we're hoping that it goes well. And as you can see, I'm obviously a Caniac with the hat and the jersey back there and other stuff that you can't see within the camera's view. I've got a gigantic Carolina Hurricanes flag that hangs over my bed. And we played well tonight, but we didn't capitalize where we should have capitalized, and as I hashtagged it on Twitter, hockey world problems. You know, so what happens when you pick a team that's not a I mean, couldn't help it. Once I got interested in hockey, which is because of one of my, it was my sophomore year in college, my roommate was into hockey. So I was the guy who had the television and everything, and he would ask me, hey, can I put on the hockey game? I was like, yeah, sure, go ahead. So, and with the TV being right there and him watching it, I slowly kind of caught on to how the game was played and stuff like that. And eventually just basically became a hockey fan. The next thing you do after you decide that you're a hockey fan, you kind of have to decide on who you're going to root for. Well, in that first season, I was rooting for. In that first time I got into it, I was rooting for the Calgary Flames, which is interesting because that's a Western team. So we didn't really get to see them play a whole lot, but they were playing my friend's team or my roommate's team, the Tampa Bay Lightning, for the Stanley Cup Championship back in this was 2005, 2006, or 2004, 2005. I can't remember because there was a lockout. But anyway, so I kind of, in football, football, which I used to watch, I was always for, the team from the local team, So I figured, hey, I'll pick the Carolina Hurricanes, I don't know any of these people, at least at the time. I didn't know who any of these people were. But they seemed to play very well, and it was the season after the lockout, and in 2005, 2006, and the Canes ended up going all the way to the Stanley Cup final and winning the final game against Edmonton, and winning the Stanley Cup. So that was really cool for someone who just got into the sport, having the teams you're following, go all the way. So, I mean, that was spectacular. And the problem is at that point in time, there wasn't enough interest to broadcast all the games. So a lot of times I listened to the games on the radio. So I got good into listening to Chuck Caton, who was the radio guy for the Hurricanes, who I don't know anyone who can talk faster than he can, outside of maybe some auction guys. He talks so fast, and he gets so excited. So, but anyway, that's about it. Tomorrow, Superb Owl Day, or Super Bowl Day, if you move the letters around. I'll see you guys later, sometime next week. It's a date. See ya. Take it easy.